Another day, another relationship sabotage. One person's conspiracy results in another's tragic loss. Title pretty much spoils it, but shh, pretend you didn't see it. The mother who magically jumps to the conclusion of incest. And someone who's already cheating and just doesn't seem to realize it yet. Hello, my snacks, welcome back. We've got a few, scoom bags in today's story. I don't know if that's a demonetizable word or not, so let's go. My wife kicked me out after finding my secret Reddit account. Today, when I came home from work to my pregnant wife of 8 years, she had packed me a bag and told me she found my private Reddit account and started to accuse me of cheating on her. She was screaming and wouldn't let me talk to her or defend myself. She said she found the story I posted detailing that I have cheated with a coworker and now the coworker is pregnant. She said she wanted a divorce and she won't let me see my unborn child. What? Someone confessing or talking about being cheated on or cheating on their partner on Reddit? Impossible! No one ever constantly posts about that. I never once cheated on her. Never thought about it. I don't think I have ever given her a reason to think I did. I found the post she thought was mine, and it has some similar details to our life, but it was posted over a year ago. Similar details as how we met, ages, and the fact I have a coworker that is pregnant. Other than that, the post said that the OP has an older daughter. The coworker has been working with OP for years. The coworker at my company started 4 months ago and was pregnant before she started. My wife is currently 6 months pregnant with our first kid, a girl. We have had our ups and downs, but nothing to cause this. How do I convince her it was not me when she doesn't want to talk to me or hear me out? I can't lose my wife or baby. My in-laws won't listen to me, and my wife won't pick up or text back. It's like another day, another man being falsely accused in a relationship. I feel it's like that experience where when you come across a new word, you suddenly see it being used everywhere. So what can this man do? Top comment of thoughtful advice offers just writing a letter, at least that could possibly reach her. Maybe she gets tricked into reading it accidentally. But this story was 4 days ago, and we get an update. Because you see, it turns out there's a third person in this relationship, in their history together. Someone who's been very adamant in making sure this couple doesn't stay a couple. An update less than 24 hours ago. Quick recap on the previous story. That night, I drove 1 hour to my in-laws. My family are not close. When I showed up, they wouldn't let me in until I started crying. I know, not manly. And explained that I am worried for my wife's mental state and the child's safety, and asked if they could please hear me out. They finally let me in. I put everything on the table. They did not hear the full story and my wife. She said that I cheated and then got in her face blaming everything on her. None of that was true. I showed them the post that she suspected was made by me, then pointed out the obvious differences. I then pulled up footage from one of our outside cameras that caught some of the argument. It caught audio only. They could tell I was not the aggressor and she was not acting like her normal self. While in the camera app though, I noticed a car was parked across the street. One I recognized. That I should have never seen again. That's right, this is a love triangle. Sort of. Up to this point, I realized that I also messed up. 1, my wife is off some of her medications and switched to different ones for the pregnancy. 2, I have spent more time at work lately, true to trying to save up more money for our future. This means that I have been neglecting my wife. And 3, I now know why my wife was acting this way. So my wife had a friend/coworker that never approved of the relationship between my wife and I. Let's give her a name. We will call her Satan. She kept trying to get between us by causing fights or bringing up false red flags of mine. Then she confessed her love for my wife and said she wanted me out of the picture. When she told my wife this, my wife told me and decided to cut contact. And she moved to a different department. I told my in-laws that we have to go to my wife. My in-laws contacted my wife and told her that they were coming over. She accepted it. She was crying and still very emotional. My in-laws told me to give them a few minutes to talk to her first. When we pulled up, it was about 8 or 9 at night. So from my in-laws, when they walked in, my wife was crying to Satan, who was happy we had a fight. They knew about what that woman tried to do in the past and told her to give them a few minutes alone. She agreed after some arguing. They had her talk about her side again and gave the evidence from my point of view. It turns out that Satan was taking advantage of the fact that my wife is pregnant. I'm working more hours, my wife is on different medications, and the info from our past that painted me in a bad way. She also had been showing me other evidence. Like somehow, she had a picture of me and my female pregnant coworker when we went out to get food for the team. That's right, Satan is literally stalking this guy just to try and get him dumped. My wife accepted this and kicked Satan out and blocked her again. We are going to try and get a restraining order placed on her. Now, things are better, but not back to the way they were. I got her a doctor's appointment on Tuesday about her medicine and scheduled an emergency therapy session with her therapist on Wednesday. For now, I'm sleeping in the guest room and trying my best to not break up our 8+ year marriage. I feel betrayed that she would take someone's side who has already proven they will do anything to get what they want, lie about her being no contact, then accuse me of cheating and not listen to what I have to say. But at the same time, I love my wife. I know that she was not in her proper state of mind. I want to get marriage counseling, but the waitlist is over 2 months long. I will tell my boss on Monday about cutting back on hours to help my wife. I have saved up time off, so that should help. Luckily, our company provides 3 months of paternity leave. Hopefully, we can get things right. My in-laws have also been staying close just in case my wife needs them or if they have to step in. The story ends there with a little edit to add mentioning how he's talked to his co-workers about this as well. They seem understanding and are willing to talk to the wife here to help appease her mind. What kind of evil does it take to deliberately and with forged evidence try to break up a marriage? I hope everything works out. This conversation continues to bring up a previous story from a long time ago. Well, I say that, but it was literally 2021. It also started in relationship advice, and unlike that first story, this one ends in death, and just the disgusting audacity of this third person thinking they deserve to be a part of this life. My wife and her best friend accused me of having an affair, then got angry when I didn't have one. I'm a 31 male, and my wife, 29, had a baby last December. It was a traumatic birth, and my wife developed postpartum depression. While she was originally going to go back to work after the birth, she's been struggling enough that we decided to wait until our daughter was a year old and reassess there. She has been going to therapy weekly. With my wife home full-time, I've had to work increased hours. This is something we discussed prior to making this decision, and she knew this from the start. A few weeks ago, my boss approached me about a project that would require a lot of overtime in a short amount of time. It would both be great financially and for my career. I talked to my wife about it, and she agreed that I should say yes to my boss. For the 4 weeks I'd be working on this, my mother-in-law and her best friend, Jessie, 29 female, would come help out with some of the duties that I typically do. Now, Jessie is a stay-at-home mother with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. She began coming over during the day and would watch the kids with my wife. Now, 3 weeks into the project, it became clear that we'd need a few more weeks to get it together. I went home that night and talked to my wife about it. She said she was okay with it, but got very cold in the days after. It wasn't unusual behavior over the past few months, so I didn't think much about it and tried to not take it personally. But during the last week of the project, I got home one night and saw that Jessie was still in the house. I didn't think much about it. I said hi to her and my wife, and then went to go check on our daughter. Before I could get to her room, I heard Jessie say something along the lines of, "He doesn't even stop to greet you. Definitely a sign." I turned around and asked what it was a sign of. Immediately, my wife started crying and Jessie started accusing me of having an affair. She told me that I must hate my wife because she has PPD and am not attracted to her because she gained weight from the pregnancy. Now, neither of these things are true. I'm trying my best to help my wife through her PPD while supporting our family. And I think she looks great how she is right now. She just hasn't wanted to be intimate, and I haven't pushed. Silly husband. Have you not watched comedy from the 80s and 90s? Everyone knows that as long as you keep pressuring your female partner into some sort of intimacy, that means you're endearing, and are just showing you like her. Jessie then demanded to see my phone. I told her no. She told me that's a sign that I'm guilty. I told my wife that I would let her see my phone if she wanted to. She nodded, and something inside me broke. I guess it was the thought that she actually believed I was having an affair that really got to me, and that she didn't trust me after everything we've been through. Well, she looked through the phone, and there was no evidence. Jessie started saying that I deleted the evidence. She started screaming and woke up our daughter, so I told her to get out of the house. Eventually, she left, and I went to calm our daughter since my wife was still on the couch crying. When my daughter was asleep again, I sat down by my wife and tried to talk to her about what's been happening. She told me that she's been worried ever since I started working all the overtime. I told her that we had talked about how good of an opportunity it was, and she agreed to letting me take on this project. She said it was very suspicious to increase the length of the project. I told her that sometimes that happens. She wanted more evidence, so I showed her messages and emails with timestamps from work and pay stubs showing the overtime. She said she believed me and was sorry for doubting me. It was just that Jessie had been telling her that these were all signs that I was cheating. I asked her why she believed Jessie more than me, and why she didn't come to me with her concerns. She didn't have a real answer. It's been a couple of weeks, and the project is over. I actually scaled back and am trying to work a little less than I was before the project, so I can spend more time with my wife and daughter. But I feel so burnt out trying to do everything and becoming resentful because in the back of my mind, I know that my wife doesn't trust me. I ask myself, what happens the next time I have a project? Or I have to run errands one day? Or I have a business trip? Am I going to come back every time to accusations that I'm cheating? I've tried bringing it up a couple of times, but my wife tells me it's not the time and that she's tired or sad. I try to be mindful of her feelings, but I wonder if that means that I can never have any of my own. I'm not sure what to do here. Any advice for how I can move forward? This story does make me think of an open question to give you all. I often read online that women will post stories about their husbands asking for a paternity test. They find it a huge sign of betrayal and mistrust, and usually they'll get the test and then divorce, feeling like, hey, if you think I'm someone capable or willing to do such a horrible thing to you, then I don't want to be a part of your life anymore. And many support this idea. They believe, yes, if he thinks you would go ahead and cheat behind his back and baby trap him, so to speak, then you don't deserve to be disrespected like that. Would you argue the same here for a man who's being accused of cheating? Obviously, there's not a case of a pregnancy involved exactly, but it's still that case of feeling betrayed, struggling with the rest of the relationship, believing whether or not you actually trust your partner will trust you with whatever you say or do. I feel, end of the day, it's something both of you have to work on. While one has to prove that they're innocent, the other has to learn some humility and actually ask for forgiveness for accusing them. But yeah, what do you think? How do those two circumstances wager against each other? For now, we move on to the update that was 5 days later, and sadly, the wife seems to have not at all learned her lesson here. The night of posting, I approached my wife and told her that I was going to find a therapist. I didn't connect it to her accusations or anything, just said that I was having a tough time and needed therapy. She shrugged and told me to do whatever. Next day, I got home from work and our room and my home office were ripped apart. Things everywhere. Important papers scattered. I don't see her, but our daughter's in her room crying. My wife left her alone. Her cell phone's off. I call my in-laws and a few friends, but no one's seen her. I'm starting to get worried and I call my mum to see if she can babysit while I go out and look for her. Before my mum can get home, my wife gets back. Jessie's driving. Jessie doesn't come in. She hasn't been back in the house since I kicked her out because she was offended by my behavior. But my wife does. She's clearly upset. Been crying. I ask what happened. I thought at first the house might have been robbed. She starts screaming at me that I'm being unfaithful and that the therapy is a front so I can meet my mistress. I try to calm her down and tell her that's not true, but she came at me and she hit me. My nose is broken. She kind of realized what she did and sat down on the couch and went comatose. Just stared at the wall. I went into my daughter's room and locked the door, called my mom to tell her what happened. She was already on her way, and my mother-in-law to ask her to come over and take care of my wife. I packed a bag for my daughter, and when my mom got there, we left. My wife didn't even look up. We dropped my daughter off with my dad, and then we went to urgent care for my nose. I got blood all over my mom's new Subaru. My daughter and I are staying with my parents for a while, and my wife's staying with hers. I am looking into getting a restraining order against Jessie. My wife and I are separating. I love her, but I won't live with someone who hurts me and who could potentially hurt our daughter. I am not going forward with a divorce yet, with the hopes that my wife will get the treatment she needs and we can work things out. My in-laws told me that they're looking at inpatient treatment at a local hospital, but I also have everything well documented in case of an eventual custody battle. The story essentially ends there with them feeling basically at a loss, also deciding ultimately, based on people's feedback, to actually file a police report, which I totally agree with. This woman was emotionally erratic and lashed out at you just like any sort of domestic abuser would. You have every right to believe this is something that should be involving police. But in a tragic update, look, again, she was abusive and she was being horrible to him, but this is still a sad ending for her. Less than a week later, he's bringing another update. Do I let the woman I fault with my wife's death let her speak at the funeral? My wife passed on early Monday morning. Convinced by her friend Jessie that I was having an affair that I did not have, she had a mental break, which resulted in me taking our infant daughter and staying with my parents for a while. She was with her parents, who planned on taking her to the hospital for inpatient treatment on Monday. On Sunday night, she came to my parents' house and demanded I give her our daughter. Because she had left her alone for several hours, the last time she was responsible for her and had gotten physical with me, I refused. I offered to let her come in and spend time with her while my parents and I were present, but she didn't want to come in and wanted to take our daughter with her. She was upset, but left eventually. A few hours later, she drove her parents' car into a tree and died. The friend, Jessie, came to see my daughter and me yesterday. After some tears, she told me that she was planning to speak at my wife's funeral. She had already cleared it with my in-laws, but was letting me know as a courtesy. I told her she would not be speaking at the funeral. We fought and she left after telling me that I was an a-hole and not the only person who loved my wife. I talked to my in-laws, who were adamant that Jessie be allowed to speak. She and my wife knew each other since they were kids, and my in-laws are close to her. We're all very fragile right now, and I fear that pushing this further would hurt my relationship with my in-laws, which I don't want. Still, the thought of seeing Jessie up there at my wife's funeral makes me feel sick. I don't think I can stand to listen to her, knowing that she took joy in my wife's deteriorating mental health and picked up my wife, leaving my daughter home alone. That being said, I don't trust myself to make the best decisions right now. My mind's clouded by grief, guilt, and fear. My parents are split on what to do, and I don't have the energy to reach out to my friends. So I'm coming here again to ask for your advice. So of course, many in the comments were wondering, what exactly did Jessie say to the in-laws? It's most likely that she's just persuaded them to think that you were definitely having an affair. Let's be honest, we really think someone like Jessie would share this sort of tea with just your wife? But apparently the OP does respond to this, so do they know? They do, to an extent. They know she accused me of an affair and was with my wife while our daughter was alone. I don't think they understand the extent it went on. They said that they don't really want to hear anything about it, since they've already lost their daughter and don't want to lose Jessie too. Okay, but Jessie's the reason you lost your daughter! With the comment responding to this offering many different options to smack down these in-laws with a bit of reality. That's great that Jessie apparently was a childhood friend that she grew up with, but she's also the one who created this mess in the first place, and is kind of really indirectly the reason she died. So you can either keep Jessie in your life, or you can keep me and your own granddaughter in your life. It's ultimatum time, baby! To uplift the mood, let's go to a story in Today I Screwed Up, which I'm not going to reveal the title because that's spoilers. Yo, I know how that sounds, but hear me out. A few weeks ago, I was on Grindr, and I started chatting with a man much older than me. I didn't want to do anything intimate, just meet people and maybe get a boyfriend. I know, Grindr isn't a place for meeting people. We kept texting, and yesterday, I was bored, so I asked him if he had any plans for the day. He said no, then he proceeded to invite me out. I told him that I was free for the night, so we went to a bar, and then he invited me over to his house. I sent my 3 closest friends his directions, just in case. After we got there, he started asking me questions, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? After a few questions, I asked him if I could kiss him. He said, of course, and we started making out. One thing led to another, and we hooked up. A few hours later, I got home, and I started telling my friend everything about it, and when I say everything, I mean everything. They were hyped and they said, can I see him? So I sent them a photo of what he looked like. They didn't reply for 5 minutes, and when they replied, they said, OP, that's my uncle. I started panicking, not knowing what to say. I apologized like 1,000 times and cut contact with their uncle. They, my friend, haven't replied to me. I hope our friendship can come back from this mess. TLDR, I hooked up with a man, then proceeded to tell my friend everything about it. Then I sent them what he looked like and they said that's my uncle. I mean, yeah, that's awkward, but what kind of friend suddenly goes no contact just because you hooked up with a family member that they themselves... Like, are they jealous of you? That's even more concerning. Okay, with that cleanser, let's go back to relationship advice and find something nice and easy to read. Something gentle, like, I ruined my entire family and destroyed my mum, and I don't know how to fix it. Yeah, that seems light and easy. I'll try to be as brief as possible, and I will answer any questions. I'm 22, and I have had 2 serious boyfriends. The first one I lost my virginity to, and the second one I also had an intimate relationship with. We broke up due to personality conflicts, on top of being long distance. Here's where I messed up. My ex number 2 sent me messages on Instagram saying he missed me, and the next time I was in town, we should hook up. The messages were very explicit. I read them, but I didn't reply or delete them. Well, my mum and I were getting our makeup done for my cousin's huge birthday party, and I pulled up some makeup looks for her to pick from to give to the stylist. She was looking at them while the artist did my makeup, and I guess she decided she wanted to check my messages. She saw the messages, and that's how she found out I'm not a virgin anymore. Jesus Christ, Mum, she is 22! Oh my gosh! A young adult in 2023 losing their virginity past the largest, oldest legal age of consent in all of the world, which is 21. Oh, color me shocked. This is 2023. Everyone knows you only lose your virginity once you're 40. I never told her because I knew she would freak out. She started crying, and because I humiliated her so badly, she started screaming at me in the middle of the salon at the top of her lungs. That she was ashamed, I'm a liar, and a slut, etc. She made us leave the shop, and I wasn't allowed to go to my cousin's party, and neither did she. Well, ex number 2 happens to be my other cousin's best friend, and he introduced us. So she got super mad at that cousin too. Both he and his friends would be at the party, and she never wants to see either of them again. She told my entire family that I'm not a virgin anymore, and that it's all my cousin's fault. She went through all my messages with my cousin, and found out that we had smoked weed a couple of times too. Yeah, so it's clear we're dealing with a very conservative parent. But hey, upset at your daughter's virginity and smoking? No, those are basic things. Let's accuse her of incest as well, yeah! Sometime in our text conversation, my cousin told me he appreciated being able to talk to me and that he loved me. We don't have any other family members we can talk openly with, so we confide in each other. I told him I loved him too, which absolutely enraged my mom. So now, on top of thinking I'm a drug addict, a criminal, and a slut, she also thinks I'm screwing my cousin. She told my grandma, who doesn't want me to stay in her house with her ever again. She told me I'm never allowed to speak to my cousin again, and I need to act as if he is dead. I'm also never allowed to go see any of my family ever again. It's been a week, and all she does is cry, tell me how much of a liar I am for pretending to be a good girl, and how much of a filthy whore I am for sleeping with my cousin, or not speak to me at all. My family hates me, she hates me, the family is ripping itself to pieces over whose fault it is that I'm banging my cousin. Jeez, how much power does this mother have over the family? I know I brought this on myself. It's my fault for sleeping. None of this would be happening. I was thinking maybe if I just tell her what she wants to hear and say my cousin and I were sleeping together, then maybe she will feel vindicated and feel like I'm finally telling the truth. I don't know what else to do at this point to try and fix my family. Yo, forget fixing your family. Fix yourself. Leave. Flee. You are 22. You have the opportunity to leave this place. This hellscape of a family who... Geez, word of mouth and they suddenly believe it's gospel. Like, imagine thinking you have to invent this incestual affair, as they say in this comment, to help your mum feel vindicated. There's being a doormat, and then there's being a bloody driveway. On to the next story of someone trying to disguise what they truly want. I, 26 female, want to have a threesome with my husband, 26, and his best friend, 26 male. So I want to have a threesome with my husband and his best friend. I've always found his best friend pretty attractive, and as of recently, he is single. His best friend and I chat a lot about intimate stuff through text and have even mentioned things we both like and dislike. First red flag. We can easily chat about this stuff, and my husband doesn't seem to mind. I feel like our convos are almost sexting. Big red flag. But neither of us are bold enough to admit it. My husband and I have always been open to the idea of having a threesome, but he's always been hesitant about having another guy. So you think a guy he personally knows will be a good idea? I have a feeling it might be different if it was his best friend. How do I make this happen? I'd love to hear his best friend dirty talk into my ear like we've mentioned, yeah! I want some good advice. How do I push the convo forward with him via text or in person? I'm just lost on how to do this. Here's an idea. Admit you're not really into your partner anymore and are more interested in his friend. Seriously, the fact you're already flirting behind his back? No. This other guy isn't even your husband's friend anymore. He's a snake trying to betray him, essentially. You've completely corrupted the potential of this happening because now, at any point you and the alleged best friend bring this up to him, it's purely manipulation at this point. It's not something he's able to genuinely consent to. Best advice here, why don't you find your hottest female friend and let your husband rail her? Of course, they'll have intimate conversations behind your back first. That way, when he gives her a facial, or better yet, a cream pie, he'll know exactly what kind of dirty talk she wants to hear. Once you've done that, then the conversation about sleeping with his best friend will be so much easier. Now, allegedly, the OP is adamant that they've just given a lack of proper context with the original post. And okay, they allege that the husband apparently knows about a lot of the conversations she has with the best friend. He enjoys hearing them too. But something tells me, based on what she says, she's delivering the conversations as if, oh, my wife and my best friend are just having a bit of banter, but she is taking it all as seductive flirting. That's a completely different thing. Back to that original burn, Opie says she wouldn't be against it, but that conversation hasn't been opened up at all. And okay, no, not with a girl, one of your very best friends, the hottest one. Like, how would you feel about seeing your loved one be keen on and want to do it with someone you most likely subtly feel like you're inferior to? Oh, well, they're all married. So are you! Anyway, my friends, that'll end today's stories. Thank you, as always, for watching. I think I'm coming across too many men in stories being innocent victims, so we'll balance it out by finding some more terrible guys in the next videos. For now, though, you be good, love your face, remember to water, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.